it feels like some people in the world, like some like dark and powerful people, know what's going on and they're not telling the rest of us. Like that video was so horrific, is that it felt cowardly. At least come and meet me here. That he showed up to have conversations.
Theo just pinpointed the most horrible part of the Charlie Kirk assassination in his eyes, the most evil aspect of it, and the thing that will cause the most negative ramifications for society. And I decided to cover this because Theo's not an ideologue. He's kind of an everyday Joe. He has shared political opinions, but I think that's carving a little bit different of an angle on this than I've seen portrayed out there. So let's get his sense on this. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel.
I was thinking about Charlie Kirk. I've been thinking about him some the past few days, and not even just thinking about him, just feeling the heaviness of the assassination, of the murder. You know, just how everybody saw it and how severe it was. And it left me, obviously it's horrific and it's heartbreaking, and I didn't know Charlie, you know. I know we had different views on a lot of things. I wasn't in his world a lot. But I admired that he was brave. He went out and had conversations in, you know, he kind of like he tweeted with his feet, you know. He went, instead of just yelling from, you know, from a desk or something, or, you know, like most podcasters, we're sitting in a room saying stuff and then putting it out. He went out into the world. And I really admired that. I do admire it.
Yeah, I got to agree. I mean, regardless of where you stand on his viewpoints, and, you know, not a newsflash to a lot of you, some of them I very much disagree with, especially as it pertained to his insistence on supporting Israel over such a long stretch, and, you know, antagonizing China, some of his penchant for protectionism. There's a lot of things that I would have disagreed with Charlie, but no one can take this part away from him, that he went to these campuses with microphones, talking to and willing to engage with the most adversarial people imaginable toward him and his views. And he was a free speech absolutist. I really do believe, in, you know, the most sincere way. Glenn Greenwald has showed this too and shared this opinion, that he truly didn't believe in curtailing free speech. He didn't believe in any kind of hate speech codes, nothing under the guise of we need to pass these new anti-Semitic codes and put those into state laws. He did oppose that sort of thing. And, you know, say what you want. You know, there's a lot of people that are going to watch this and say, what are you talking about? This guy's an idiot. He had stupid opinions. You know, some people have even justified his murder, but I don't think most people can take that away from him.
And it just left me feeling so like, just kind of broken. A part of me, I don't even know what part of me feels kind of broken. And I don't know if it's about, you know, that it's because someone is sharing their point of views, or that someone's, you know, that free speech is getting gunned down, or if, you know, I don't know exactly why it feels like it affected me so much. You know, of course, that sort of thing affects you. It happens a lot in the world these days. And I think maybe just the severity of it, how just graphic it seemed and was, you know?
Yeah, seeing that in 4K is something Americans haven't experienced. You know, we all know about the Kennedy assassination, the Kennedy assassinations in the plural, Martin Luther King, etc. That really wasn't brought to the public in 4K like these videos, and we're not going to show the videos. Most people that are interested in that sort of thing have seen it, but it was gruesome. And I really think that turned a lot of people's minds in various ways on this thing, from extreme, you know, the worst, most toxic parts of humanity to the most kind-hearted ones. I think we've really seen the gamut of what humanity is capable of, both good and evil, after this story. That's something like I totally agree with him on.
And sorry, my hair's so it's like I've been helping my buddy. I'm doing playing a character in this haunted house, so we've been practicing. But yeah, there was just something about it. It's just left me scared, first of all. You know, and maybe that's selfish to think that, but it left me scared. You know, because a lot of people go out and put themselves out in front of the public, and we all do. We do it when we walk down the street. We do it when we take our dog to the dog park. You do it when, you know, if you step on a stage and read a poem or sing a song or anything. And that's kind of, I think that's what it was. It's like, that's supposed to be something that's kind of safe, right? To be able to have a voice, to say something. And whether people may agree with it or not. I didn't know Charlie. I'd never gotten to meet him. I didn't know. I know we had different beliefs on some things. I didn't know a lot of his stuff, you know. But, excuse me. But I did admire that he was brave.
Yeah, I think he was. And I think there's something to what Theo's saying about it being safe, the idea of sharing information, sharing your thoughts and opinions with others. I mean, in that context, Charlie did the right thing, quote unquote, the right thing. And again, I know people are going to be turned off on that hate Charlie and his politics and where he leaned in certain directions. Rightfully so in my mind in some regards, but he did what was right in regard to sharing truths with others and being willing to receive them from a microphone from very adversarial people that had very different opinions than his on foreign policy and the culture war and gender ideology and guns and taxes and all sorts of issues, the entire, you know, gamut of issues. And that's what's the most senseless part of this whole thing, is because he did the right thing in that context and he still got shot. He still got shot, and presumably it was for his opinions. And I'm not going to rattle off, you know, a lot of the theories or narratives regarding this. I think it's healthy to question the prevailing narratives of all times that the FBI rushes in and, you know, creates a narrative, pieces it together, etc. But that's the worst part of this. You know, he did the right thing to try to share discourse. And there's videos of him talking about what his aim is in these conversations, this campus tour that he's done for years and years. And it's to have conversations with people. So you get the benefit of the doubt. You meet people, you might interact with them, grow closer to them, even in difference, such that violence doesn't happen. And that's the worst part of this. Ultimately, violence did happen. And that, you know, ruptured the idea that humanity can just do that wholesale, I think. And it really shows the evil nature of humanity in some regards. But then some of the outpouring of love that's come from people of various political directions I didn't assume also shows the other side of humanity in this whole thing.
That he showed up to have conversations. And it just like that, it was such a final and sick and distant thing. It was from so far away. And maybe that's it, that somebody so far away can shut you down without ever having even like looked at you in the eyes or in person or shaking your hand or anything. Yeah. I don't know. And I don't even know why I'm like kind of speaking up about it. Maybe, I don't know. I think I'm trying to figure out. I mean, it scared me. You know, it made me kind of scared. It made me really scared. Yeah, and my prayers to his family and to people that knew him and loved him. But yeah, there's supposed to be a thing where you can get up on a stage and share something, right? You can get into a public place and people would come to see an art or to jeer at an art. I think a lot of people that came to him came because they wanted to combat him with arguments or whatever, do the opposite argument.
Yeah, that's what he thrived on doing. And what just can't escape thoughts of this situation in my head is, those two young children that will not remember him. They're very young and they won't remember him. That sickens me the most, that the person that deprived him of his life is actually depriving these two little children, these tiny, innocent children that had no bones in, the culture war, or politics, or the left-right dichotomy, are going to grow up without their father. And yeah, the response from the most vile people is like, even Hitler had family too. And it's like, dude, you're totally missing the boat. And this has produced the worst sides of humanity, both the people that have said he deserves it and call it a small niche. A lot of those videos have gotten a lot of backlash. It's led to, a cancel campaign against people doing that. And then there are some voices on the right that says the state has to be weaponized against the entire left over this. I think both of those responses are maybe equally heinous and equally terrible in this moment where people should reflect and not take up arms, not have a call to violence, and not celebrate this. That just makes you a rotten person.
Yeah, and I think it's just a culmination of that sort of things become so prevalent in our society. Like that video was so horrific. And you're just like, it just felt like that this can't happen anymore. But you don't know what to do. And I don't know, most people, or maybe I don't know, I think that, yeah, people are always like, you want to at least have a certain level of like, what's fair. And it just seems so unfair.
Yeah, man, that's an understatement. Let that sink in. If he didn't do the right thing in terms of exchanging ideas, debating them, whether you thought he was right or wrong, whether you thought he got the best of others or not, whether you thought he got destroyed by some of his adversaries, he did that. He did what was supposed to be right. And it is unfair. Unfair is to say the least. And this is probably the most high-profile political assassination in terms of a very influential person in society outside of elected politics since Martin Luther King. I can't think of a closer parallel. I'm not saying that's one-to-one, but I really believe that, his influence was that significant. He was one of the top 3 influencers on the entire right, probably. You could say maybe Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson are above him. There's some others in that mix potentially, but those are among the conversation. So, man, I just think political-based assassinations backfire in so many ways. You see it throughout history, the race riots after Martin Luther King's assassination, all the violence of the Weathermen, and, the state being weaponized against black dissidents and COINTELPRO. But going back far longer than that, Julius Caesar and Abraham Lincoln were both two figures that were very unpopular amongst certain segments of their respective countries and societies and political systems, and they essentially became deified martyrs after dying. It really does backfire, and I think this has that same propensity. Charlie wasn't elected, but that same sort of influence might spill out of this. And, if you listen to Charlie's widow, who I don't think you can listen to that kind of conversation regarding what she said in response to it, regardless, again, of how you saw Charlie's issues, without crying, and her telling the story of how she's going to keep his organization going, hell or high water, and explaining how she had to explain this to their young children. I don't think you can get through that without at least tearing up a little bit. Or if you're not the kind of emotional person like that, at least thinking deeply about that.
And so cowardly. Like, if there is a microphone there and he's there to debate, go and debate him. Go speak your piece. Whether the crowd agrees or if whoever kind of wins the debate or whatever, I don't know if that matters. What matters is that you like kind of try and share whatever you're thinking or feeling. And maybe there's people that don't. Maybe there's people that don't feel like they have a place to do that. I don't know. But to go that far away, not even have the balls to go to the microphone or to. I think something about that makes me sick. That's what it is. I think it's made me feel sick. And I think there's other stuff, like feeling like there's like, it feels like some people in the world, like some like dark and powerful people know what's going on and they're not telling the rest of us. I think that feels like what's happening sometimes. And I don't know if I'm the only person that's feeling that. I feel like they all know something that's happening.
Yeah, I definitely don't think he's the only one feeling that on this with, contradictions to the FBI narrative, people raising questions over Charlie Kirk, being more skeptical toward Israel in the last month or so of his life. Things like that have raised questions, and I know that Theo isn't the only one thinking that, certainly so. And thinking that no matter what narrative was going to be produced by the government or by, social media, it was going to be wrong, innately so. Just having the worst feelings and impressions about, the other, whatever the other is, if it's left versus right to you, if it's, the citizens versus the government, whether it's citizens versus corporations or whatever angle you're looking at this at, a lot of people have questions, I think rightly so, about official narratives and the narrative that's being produced here. There are so many pre-manufactured narratives, and then when the information starts to come out, a lot of which contradicts those pre-manufactured narratives, people take it as if it's like a hit to the religion that they constructed around this and around it themselves. So I really think there's something to that.
It always feels like there's something bigger and eviler in the distance hiding behind something that's kind of laughing a little. And, yeah, and this just felt like the pinnacle of the horn of whatever creature that is, kind of. Yeah, I don't know, something like that. Yeah, and I think it's scary. It's like, yeah, it's like where is safe? Where is safe? Where is safe? How is like a dad or parents who send their kids to school supposed to feel like they're in a safe place? It used to feel like things were safe. Or maybe it never, I don't know, maybe it never felt like that. But I don't know, it used to feel like things were safe somehow.
Yeah, I think you can make both arguments in this. We're a fallen species. I think man is fallen. I'm a Christian. That's what I believe, and nothing explains this more to me in terms of what I believe in religion than sin entered the world. And, I don't think that that's ever going to be rectified in the world through humans. We can strive to make society better. We can strive to make government less oppressive than it is. Things more conducive to individual rights. That's my objective in having this channel, but I don't think we can perfect that whatsoever. But I do agree that even growing up in my childhood, the 90s, it just seemed like another time. And I'm 42 years old. I know many of my viewers probably a little bit older or about my age. Let me know down below, do you agree that we have a different society today than we do in the 90s? It's more polarized than today. At least it seems like that. It really seems like there's a more polarized society. A lot of it is probably just narratives that play out on social media that don't necessarily play out in real life. I think there's something to that too. But we never had, the culture war, the woke versus the right-wing culture war. We didn't have, cheering on the death of innocence to the extent, in my recollections, like we do now. We didn't have trying to weaponize the state against the others like we do now. I know that that was part of the civil rights era, though, too. So I don't want to, like, detract from that being happening in certain periods in American politics, but I think at least there was a lull during the 90s and maybe 80s to some extent. Tip O'Neill worked with Ronald Reagan, after all. Clinton worked with the Republican Congress, and, you know, after all, he didn't get offed for it. He didn't get shot through the ear, attempted assassinations. They did try to, yeah, I shouldn't say they, I mean, Reagan was shot by Hinckley, right? But I really think that it was a different world back then. Let me know if you agree. This is just sense on my part.
And that that other people had a respect for safety, and maybe that still is there, and maybe this is just such a moment that feels so intense. Yeah, and I don't know, and nobody has to hear what I want to say or whatever. I'm not like, I don't know anything. I'm just, I don't know. I've had this feeling. It's just been like, man, why is this hitting me so hard? Somebody that I don't know.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are having that feeling too. I disagree that no one wants to hear him on this. This video has over 2 million views so far, by the way. And I think it's because of how genuine Theo Von comes off. You're not going to get, political manifestos out of his show. And I think that's why a lot of people watch him, by the way. That's why I'm watching him. He's a real guy with genuine feelings on a real quest about something that's, tumultuous and vile, and in some ways shows the darkest parts of humanity, and he's navigating those waters. That's why I'm watching. So I think there's value in this.
Right. And yeah, I guess that's some of the feelings that I'm kind of surfing on a little bit. Is that it felt cowardly. At least come and meet me here. And don't like me. That's okay. I can handle that if you're here and you disagree with me and you don't like me. I can handle that. But to do it from way over there, And it's the same type of, you see it in other places around the world, and we're just sick of watching it. We're sick of watching kind of someone far away decide if someone there is, that they're okay or they're, and eliminating their life, We're sick of feeling that, or I'm sick of feeling, like it's unsafe out there. I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's some parallels there. I mean, he cheated what was right, the assassin, by shooting Charlie. It was cowardly in a way because, he couldn't defeat Charlie presumably on a microphone, even though that was Charlie's entire doctrine and mantra, to come up and debate him, even if you disagreed with him profusely. If he really did disagree with Charlie, I mean, I think it's a pretty reasonable thing to say that likely he was shot for what he believed. I mean, I don't think that's a big stretch, knowing little else about the truth and sifting through the government's narratives on these sorts of things. But I think we can at least assume that, right? And it is cowardly. And I think there is parallels to how Washington, D.C. treats individuals in the United States and how they fleece us of our wealth and, violate our rights. Every time you walk through the airport, the TSA just shreds the Fourth Amendment in front of your face. And, they just inflate our currency. They just send all of our money to corporations, and endless wars in the pursuit of the Israel lobby and the military-industrial complex, Lockheed Martin, line the pockets of J.P. Morgan bankers and Bank of America bankers. And, by the way, give big pharma like Pfizer and Moderna immunity from all injuries caused by vaccines and any kind of drugs, which now, we're supposed to just buy into all the prevailing narratives about how, it's the government solving all these problems, but Americans feel otherwise. I think there is some parallels to that. This person far away trying to decide whether you live or die, how your life's going to turn out or not, whether you're treated in an honest way or not, or whether your rights will be violated. Like the ultimate way in which to violate someone's rights, which was to shoot Charlie.
I think I'm kind of rambling now, but yeah. So I felt I think I felt some relief today that they caught this guy, if that's the guy that did it. I didn't get to read a ton about it. But there's still this bigger feeling of, like, what happens? What stage is safe? What place is safe to stand up and share how you feel or to share something?
Yeah, good questions, man. And just this whole thing was genuine. And I don't know about you guys, but I needed to view a conversation like this instead of just getting in all the weeds about how close someone was to Charlie or whether Israel was involved. All those questions, are important. We need to consider everything regarding stories like this, how monumental this story is and the ramifications for our society and people that knew Charlie and Charlie's political adversaries. We needed to know a lot of angles of the story, but just reflecting in a human way like Theo did here, I think is awesome. I really enjoyed this. I took a lot from this and just seeing his viewpoint about thinking about the grand things revolving around this that aren't necessarily political or aren't necessarily based on culture, but just really inward, introspective thoughts. And I think we could all behoove ourselves to see that kind of content sometimes. It actually helps me quite a bit. I like his podcast quite a bit because he's not the typical political podcaster. He's kind of a Joe Blow, everyday American, even though, he's rich beyond belief probably, right? But he is so because he comes off that way, I think, very accurately from what I've seen. But I do want to hear from you. What were you thinking? What is your biggest takeaway from this assassination? What's the most horrible aspect of it? Is there anything that you think's been glossed over in all these narratives, even if it goes down to the most human level? Let me know in the comments down below. Also, please like my video and subscribe to my channel. Subscribe to Theo too. Also, great podcast. I really like that guy. And please consider becoming a YouTube member. So if you click the join button below, you can help support my channel. And then in return, I'll give you access to all my members only videos before they go live to the general public on my channel. And until I see you guys next time, no more war, no more debt, no more inflation, and no more empire. Peace out, guys. Catch you in the next one.